will follow when you're doing what is right.
Good job. You see, I accidentally wasn't truthful, so I need to do that again truthfully.
Okay, we'll do that again in a second. What's the next part?
You can never ever hide all the good things that will follow when you're doing what is right. Then it goes like this. One tiny word that's honest and true grows to become a good thing that's huge.
And so we got to make it sound huge again.
It's got to sound really huge.
Let's start by one tiny word that's honest and true.
All right.
One tiny word that's honest and true grows to become a good thing that's huge.
Sounds great. You can never, never, never hide all the good things that will follow when you're doing what is right.
Okay, you can never, never, never. You can never, never, never hide all the good things that will follow when you're doing what is right.
Good job.
Can we do the whole second verse?
That's the whole thing.
This time we'll get it straight. Be careful with your words.
We'll be truthful.
All right, Mr. Rob, from the top of the second verse, so be careful.
I like your smiles.
So be careful what you say and be careful what you do. Making honesty your policy will help you through. Then no matter how you try it, you can never, ever hide all the good things that will follow when you're doing what is right. One tiny word that's honest and true grows to become a good thing that's huge. You can never, never, never hide all the good things that will follow when you're doing what is right.
Fantastic. I think we ought to give each other a big hand.
Miss Rebecca?
Yes, sir.
Does that mean we can do it from the very beginning now?
The very beginning. I think we're ready.
All right, Mr. Rob. You may think that no one sees. Here we go. You may think
you know what?
Whoa, 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 Mr. Rob.
Mr. Rob.
Oh, Mr. Rob. Whoa, whoa.
I think there's a
Mr.
slight
Rob.
problem here.
Mr. Rob. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Mr. Rob. I thought you said you were a truthful pianist, Mr. Rob.
That's not the right song, Mr. Rob.
No, that's not.
No,
Yes,
that's some other thing. We have to do the truthful song.
The Truthfulness song.
Yes, and play it truthfully.
Okay.
Can you do that
I
for?
have to play the Truthfulness song truthfully.
Yes,
The
sir.
right words and the right notes.
Okay.
Can you
Or
do
else
that
it
for
wouldn't be
us?
truthful.
No,
Absolutely.
it wouldn't. Okay. How about we try this again, Miss
Oh,
Rebecca?
thank you.
With Mr. Rob playing truthfully this
Okay,
time.
and we'll sing truthfully too.
All right. You may think.
Sounds right.
You may think that no one sees, and you may think that no one knows, but the light that seems so little somehow grows and grows. For no matter how you try it, you can never ever hide all the problems that will come with just a little tiny lie. One tiny fib or stretch of the truth grows to become a problem that's huge. You can never, never, never hide all the problems that will come from just one little tiny lie. So be careful what you say and be careful what you do. Making honesty your policy will help you through. And no matter how you try it, you can never ever hide all the good things that will follow when you're doing what is right. One tiny word that's honest and true grows to become a good thing that's huge. You can never, never, never hide all the good things that will follow when you're doing what is right.
Fantastic!
Give your neighbor a big hand.
Mr. Robert, they sure did learn that thoroughly.
They did, and they learned it truthfully too. That makes a big difference.
Sure does.
Well, Miss Rebecca,
Yes, sir.
we did our memory work, and we did our songs, and it's time for a story.
Well, I happen to know that this is a pretty exciting story.
Well,
may I go listen to it?
I love to tell. Why don't we say thank you to Miss Rebecca and Mr. Rob? You
Thank
ready?
you.
Thank you, Miss Rebecca and Mr. Rob. Lions. They always speak the truth. In other words, lions aren't lying. They're truthful. For unlike other big cats like cheetahs and cougars, lions don't hide their feelings, but rather they communicate exactly what they're thinking by the way that they hang their tail, or hold their ears, or move their mouth. It tells you a lot about what a lion is going to do. Now, you and I, we need to be as truthful as a lion. We need to make sure that the words we speak are true and right. Now, picture yourself walking down the sidewalk in your neighborhood. You're walking there with maybe some of your friends and your family, and you're walking down the sidewalk, and you look up, and there in the distance, you see on the very same sidewalk a great, huge lion. And he's headed in your direction. Now, don't panic. Don't panic at all, because the first thing you must do is look at the lion's tail. Look at the lion's tail. You see, if the lion's tail is just long and flowing, then that's his friendly greeting, and you have nothing to worry about. That lion's just on a leisurely stroll through your neighborhood. However, if that lion sticks its tail straight out, and the tip of it begins to twitch back and forth and back and forth, oh boy. Now you've got a serious problem, because that lion's no longer on a leisurely stroll through your neighborhood. No, he's looking for some dinner. And you've better be careful. So the first thing when you see a lion is you look at the lion's tail. Now the second thing you want to look at are the lion's ears. You see, if the lion just hangs his ears down, then he's just on a leisurely stroll through your neighborhood. But if the lion perks up his ears and he begins to pin them against the side of his neck, oh boy. You've got a problem on your hands, because he's no longer on a leisurely stroll in your neighborhood. He's out for dinner. So the first thing you look at is the lion's tail. The second thing you look at are the lion's ears. And the third thing you look at is the lion's mouth. Look at its mouth. You see, if a lion is just kind of smiling right back at you, then you don't have to worry. But if the lion begins to curl up one of its lips and curl up another one of its lips and begin to show his big, sharp, hungry teeth, oh boy. You've got a serious problem on your hands, because he's not on a leisurely stroll through your neighborhood. He's looking for dinner, and he might have you in mind to invite. You see, lions always speak the truth, and because they speak the truth, you can trust a lion. Now then, not only should you speak the truth, but you also have to discern or judge what is true. For you and I, when we hear things, we need to think about them and discern if that's a true statement or if that's a lie. And if it's true, you can believe it. If it's not true, then you shouldn't. Now, to put this into practice, I want to tell you two stories. Two different stories. One of those stories is true. Another one of those stories is not true. So sit up straight and think very hard and listen closely. Don't say anything out loud. Just keep it to yourself, but think if the story is true and which one is not true. And here is the first story. Years ago, on the plains of Africa, young boys would prove their courage and prove their strength by an act of bravery. And so one day, a little boy went through all the surrounding plains, and he was searching for a lion. He decided that he would try and kill a lion, so he began calling. Oh, it's a lion! Oh, don't panic. Don't panic, because the first thing you want to look at is the lion's tail. look at his tail, and it was just long and flowing. No problem. Well, the second thing you look at are the lion's ears. Look at his ears, and they were just hanging there. And the third thing you always look at is the lion's mouth. Look at his mouth. He just smiled right back at him. Well, then the boy decided that with his stick, he could try and provoke that lion and make it upset. And so he began to attack that lion and make that lion mad. Whoa! Well, that lion, it really worked. And so that lion, he began to stick his tail straight out and began to twitch back and forth and back and forth. Well, then he looked at the ears, and the ears were pinned against the side of his head. And then the third thing he looked at was the lion's mouth, and he began to show his big, sharp, hungry teeth. And the little boy figured out that lion was no longer on a leisurely stroll through his neighborhood. He was out for dinner. Well, the little boy knew that when lions attack, they jump into the air. And so he made a really tight fist with his hand. He made a tight fist, and when the lion jumped into the air, he shoved his fist down the lion's mouth, through his stomach, and began to pull the inside of the lion out. And he began to pull and pull and pull and pull. Then all that hair, that huge mane now turned outside in, began to tickle the lion. It began to tickle that lion. Oh! And it tickled and tickled and tickled until it was tickled to death. And so the little boy, he grabbed hold of that dead lion and he dragged it back to his village for all to see that he had faced a lion and won. Now, don't say anything out loud. Don't say anything out loud, but think to yourself for a moment. If that story was true, or if it wasn't true, if there are any parts of that story you believe, any parts that you don't believe. And think about that to yourself while I tell you the second story. Years ago, on the plains of Africa, young boys would prove their courage and prove their strength by an act of bravery, showing that they were prepared to take on the responsibilities of a man. And so one day, a little boy went through all the neighboring plains searching and calling for a lion. He was trying to find a lion to kill and prove his bravery, so he continued to call. No! Oh, a lion! Oh, don't panic. Don't panic, because the first thing you look at is the lion's tail. And it was just long and flowing. But the second thing you want to look at are the lion's ears. Look at his ears, and they were just hanging there. But the third thing you always have to look at is the lion's mouth. And he was just smiling right back at him, real friendly like. But then the little boy decided that with his stick he could try and provoke that lion and make it upset. Whoa! And try and make that lion attack. Well, he began to provoke that lion and make it angry. Whoa! And so that lion, he began to get all upset. He began to run around and he began to snarl. And that little boy looked. And the first thing he looked at, he noticed that the lion's tail stuck straight out and began to twitch back and forth and back and forth. Then he looked at the lion's ears, and they were pinned against the side of his head. And then he looked at the lion's mouth, and they were big, sharp, hungry teeth. And the little boy figured out that he was no longer on a leisurely stroll through his neighborhood. He was out for dinner. Well, the little boy knew that lions attack very, very quickly, and up to a speed of 40 miles an hour. And when they attack, they jump into the air. And so the little boy had prepared for a long time. He placed his stick in the ground, and with the sharp end in the air, when the lion jumped into the air, it landed on that stick, and the weight of the lion pierced its heart on that stick. Well, that little boy, he then grabbed hold of that lion and he dragged it back to his village for all to see that he had faced a lion and won. Let's give our lion and little boy a big hand. Now, don't say anything out loud, but think to yourself which story is true and which one wasn't. Now then, I'd like for you to raise your hand if you think that the first story was the true story. All right? Raise your hand if you think the second story was the true one. Look at that. Well, that was the true story. Very good. You are thinking and judging and discerning the difference between a truth and a lie. And see, that is part of being truthful. Now, I wonder, how many of you in this room would make a commitment that from here on out, every word and every action, everything you do would be truthful as a lion? Can I see your hand if you would commit to doing that? Wonderful. Wonderful. You can put your hands down. That means that you need to be truthful, not just half the time, not just most of the time, but all the time, every day, wherever you are, to make sure that you always speak the truth. Well, Miss Rebecca.
Yes, Mr. Robert?
Do you think we could sing that song again?
Well, sure we can, but we need Mr. Rob.
Mr. Rob, would you mind playing the song truthfully this time? All right.
That would be
Telling the
helpful.
truth. That's the name of the song, right?
It is. You may think that no one sees, and you may think that no one knows.
All right. Well, this is going to be fun. Mr. Rob?
Here we go. Sitting up straight. All right.
You may think that no one sees, and you may think that no one knows, but the lie that seems so little somehow grows and grows. For no matter how you try it, you can never ever hide all the problems that will come from just one little tiny lie. One tiny fib or stretch of the truth grows to become a problem that's huge. You can never, never, never hide all the problems that will come from just one little tiny lie. So be careful what you say and be careful what you do. Making honesty your policy will help you through. And no matter how you try it, you can never ever hide all the good things that will follow when you're doing what is right. One tiny word that's honest and true grows to become a good thing that's huge. You can never, never, never hide all the good things that will follow when you're doing what is right.
That was outstanding!
Give your neighbor a big hand.
Well done. Well, Mr. Robert, the lessons that we learned in that song, we can remember because it'll help us to be truthful, not just part of the time, but all the time.
That's right, because lions always speak the truth, and we can learn from their example.
We sure can.
Well, Mr. Rob, Miss Rebecca, how about we try our memory work?
All right, I'm ready, and I think we can even set a world record.
A world record?
Yes, sir.
We'll have to find out, okay? Sitting up straight, looking in the right direction with a big smile on your face. All right.
Just like that happy lion.
I will always tell the truth, even when it's hard to do.
Sure will.
Here we go.
I will always tell the truth, even when it's hard to do. I'll encourage those around me so that they'll be truthful too. I'll admit when I am wrong, I will not exaggerate. And though I may be tempted, I will never steal or cheat. Commitments are important steps to guard us from disaster. And just to show we know them well, let's say them even faster. I will always tell the truth, even when it's hard to do. I'll encourage those around me so that they'll be truthful too. I'll admit when I am wrong, I will not exaggerate. And though I may be tempted, I will never steal or cheat. Commitments are important steps to guard us from disaster. And just to show we know them well, let's say them even faster. I will always tell the truth, even when it's hard to do. I'll encourage those around me so that they'll be truthful too. I'll admit when I am wrong, I will not exaggerate. And though I may be tempted, I will never steal or cheat. Commitments are important steps to guard us from disaster. And just to show we know them well, let's say them even faster.
Now for the world record, here we go.
I will always tell the truth, even when it's hard to do. I'll encourage those around me so that they'll be truthful too. I'll admit when I am wrong, I will not exaggerate. And though I may be tempted, I will never steal or cheat. Commitments are important steps to guard us from disaster. And just to show we know them well, let's say them even faster.
Give your neighbor a round of applause.
Oh, boy, Mr. Robert, that was a workout.